So here's my story, or our story. This is a shot of Princess Island, downtown Calgary from the south side. There's a restaurant there that you can kind of see just right of center. It's on an island. You just can't see it. So let's start with the numbers. In June 2013, we saw the worst natural disaster in the history of Alberta and of the lands here. And it brought the very worst of times and also the very best in our people. Over 100,000 people were displaced in the regions affected, and Calgary's two rivers reached flow rates that exceeded normal by almost 10 times. In the areas affected, there were 32 states of local emergency declared. $5 billion in damage was estimated, and of that, $1.5 billion was covered by insurance. And while we saw the very worst of times here, we also saw the very best. 2 days later, Mayor Nenshi made a call for 700 Calgarians to come out to McMahon Stadium and be part of brigades to help their neighbors. 6,000 people showed up. And that's just a small number of the Calgarians who came out to help. And in the arts, we asked the question of artists and arts organizations. This is Jen Somerville, a glass artist, her studio. An estimated $2.1 million of reported damage, lost revenue, i.e. lost gigs, couldn't do a fundraiser, couldn't get my exhibition up, lost damage in inventory. And in many cases, all three to the same individual or the same organization. And that came from 126 artists. So the Alberta Arts Flood Rebuild Program began. 35 organizations from across the country, across all sectors of government, came together to say, what can we do? How can we be a resource to artists and arts organizations where they can come and find us, and we can help them. We set a target of $500,000 to raise to try and give back for flood relief. This is Ken Kirschenman's studio. You can see the water line at the top of the garage door opening, and that's his work, his life's work. And we heard those stories over and over again. In addition to the 35, though, our community responded. That's Ken's work drying out on his lawn. So you can see the mud, you can see the paint peeling off of the canvas. And when we put the word out that we were looking to help our artists, people came forward. Like the King Edward School. It's a C-SPACE project. It's an arts incubator that's due to open in 2017. It's an old school that's been closed for 20 years. Reed Henry and his team opened the building up to dozens of artists. There's Ken's work being dried out by nature, like it was damaged by nature. And volunteer conservators from museums across the country came to work with our artists to help them save their work. Princess Island, that picture I showed you, Shakespeare in the Park, the day after the waters came. That's their dressing room. They managed to save $200,000 worth of equipment. They lost about $50,000 in costumes and props and obviously their venue. And yet Theatre Calgary made a donation to the Alberta Arts Flood Rebuild Fund to help their neighbors. The Sled Island Music Festival opened the day before the flood. And as venue by venue closed, the artists who were stranded in Calgary went to houses and to all ages facilities and played anyway, to audiences of 400 and 500 people and those brigades in their rubber boots. The Green Fools Theatre, this is their church home, the day of the flood. 45 minutes after, Dean put out a Facebook post saying, I need help. 24 people came to help him try and save what he could. And basically, they lost everything. The church was destroyed. They don't have a home. 2 weeks later, that's Dean having a social circus for young people whose families were affected by the flood. He knew they needed a way to express themselves. He knew they needed a way to gather that wasn't about this trauma that they were all encountering. And here we are last month. Green Fools is in their new home in partnership with 2 other arts organizations and equipment that they managed to get replaced or borrow or have given to them. So Green Fools looks towards its new beginning and starting its work. Now, it wasn't only artists who were affected by the floods. Artists had their own effect, like Mandy Stobo, here with the mayor. And she says it when she goes, "The Scuba Nenshi project was my way of trying to give back to our community and honor the unbelievable leadership we were given during a very scary time. As I was helping tear out homes, I wanted to do more, to do what I could to raise money. Too many good people have lost so much, and I think it is all of our responsibility to do whatever we can to try and help them in their time of crisis." So I made a bad portrait of the mayor and of this particular image in our history, put them on t-shirts, and I sold thousands in 1 week. I hope it can be a reminder of how great our art is in this beautiful city, how great our heart is in this beautiful city. I'm still blown away by what Calgary has accomplished in such a short time. It's so inspiring. Other artists created specific pieces for sale, all the proceeds going to flood relief. Musicians came out by the scores and gave their time at dozens of fundraisers and music events. They raised millions of dollars towards flood relief. They contributed to amounts like the Red Cross, who raised $40 million for the efforts on these floods. The Calgary Foundation raised $8 million. Arts Flood Rebuild met its $500,000 target. We have a second round of funding coming up to get back to normal. That's what Princess Island is supposed to look like. That's where Shakespeare in the Park is supposed to be presenting, and the Folk Fest, and Expo Latino, and the many, many arts and cultural events that take place on the island. So what do we know? We know that the flood was the great equalizer. There were no distinctions between artist and non-artist, or amateur or professional. It was just us, it was just our city, and it was our neighbor. And we were going to use whatever talents we had, whatever passion we have, and put it towards those efforts. Thanks very much.